people are the ones who are going to put the plan into action. The plan is it's a document. It's got ideas, and it'll have, ways to implement these ideas, but it's the people, it's all of us who are going to be the ones doing the work.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's being the change.
What's up, JMU? Andy Perrine here. Welcome to Being the Change. This episode is a second in a series updating the campus community about the strategic planning process, which is quite the journey. We're in the second phase of the strategic planning process, and we've got three guests here who are intimately involved in guiding the process. With us are Dr. Bethany Blackstone. She's the Dean of the Honors College, and she's a political science professor. And we should also note she's an Indiana graduate who also is a big JMU fan, so she had a heck of a time this football season.
Go Hoosiers, go Dukes.
Thank you, Bethany. Also with us is Sheila Smith. She's the Senior Associate Vice President of Philanthropic Operations. Sheila, welcome.
Thank you.
And if you could see her, she's wearing a very nice purple and gold Duke sweater, so there's some spirit there too. And also with us is Dr. Chris Orem, and he's the Executive Director of the Office of Planning, Analytics, and Institutional Research, or as he likes to cheekily say, PAIR. So I'd like to welcome Chris.
Thanks, Andy.
So I'd like to frame this moment and set a little bit of context. The way that President Jim has been talking about strategic planning at JMU is that he does not want it just to be a document that is created and then put on a shelf. He really wants it to animate the university going forward, and it's a really important process to get right, and it's an accelerated process. It's been moving very quickly. And we've moved from the listen phase to the envision phase, and so that's why we wanted to update campus on that. In terms of the listening phase, Sheila, I'll start with you. Why was it so important that this process be highly visible and community-centric and inclusive at the outset?
I think we've all heard the phrase that people support what they help to create,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, President Jim was very clear from the beginning that he could have written a strategic plan over the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
but if he wanted anyone to help implement it and be bought in, then we needed to have an inclusive process.
Right.
In addition, I think we also acknowledge that we have a lot of really smart people on this campus.
Good point.
People who've written books and are expertise in a lot of the areas we're exploring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be a little bit short-sighted not to seek their opinions.
Mm-hmm. And Bethany, as a faculty member, I think it's really important for the faculty who are trained to be skeptical, which is what we hire them to be. How important is it that we have faculty participation in the listening phase?
It's really important to engage all sorts of stakeholders, but faculty are especially important for delivering what you might think of as our core service here and providing classes that engage our students. Not that other pieces of their experience aren't also deeply important, but faculty have particular expertise and a particular stake in the curricular experiences that students have. And many of the features of the strategic plan will focus on what students do in the classroom and out of it. And faculty are an integral piece of making those experiences work.
Agreed. And Chris, now that we've sort of gathered qualitative and quantitative data from the listening phase, and I think we engaged over 3,000 people, either in person or electronically, to provide their feedback. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you, not just counting kind of the responses to the survey in the fall and whatnot, but if you factor in the feedback we got on the SWOT analysis that was done and is typically done as part of a strategic planning process, you're looking at over, now we're into we had almost 5,000 people engaged in that process. So we've really tried to look for a wide range of audiences and ways to engage and soliciting feedback all along the way.
Also add that it's important that this plan process has been getting moving as President Jim was starting as president, getting to know campus. And so making sure that he has an opportunity to hear from and engage all of the people who support JMU, to echo Sheila's point, to make sure that we are developing a plan that people can get behind and that aligns with people's expertise and experience of JMU's history.
So it's kind of serving a dual purpose of orienting the new president as well as gathering data that can help us to plan well.
Definitely. Yeah. It'll be exciting to figure out together what everyone can get excited about.
You know, Bethany, you mentioned the particular expertise that faculty bring to this process. You know, one of the things I think that those of us in higher ed are very concerned or interested in is how do we keep pace with a new reality that is being disrupted or abetted by artificial intelligence. And I think there's a lot of expertise on campus with that regard, and it varies by discipline.
Sure. I think one of the realities of being an educator is that we know there is a constant need to be attentive to a changing world and also maintaining a commitment to teach what we know are enduring skills that will always be important to students. And so critical thinking, communication, the ability to problem solve, the ability to work with people to do things that matter. And so we do that in a context that requires some attention to continuity and a lot of attention to change.
Well, and those are the skills that that conceivably are the ones that will continue beyond artificial intelligence and are not replaceable.
Absolutely. So we need to make sure that our students can do the things that are uniquely human as they continue to learn to navigate a world that is increasingly dependent on technology in different spaces.
Sheila, back to the fall and when we were gathering information, were there some consistent themes or tensions or excitement that were drawn out during those sessions?
I think universally, the thing that I heard the most in college meetings, idea forums, and then out and about when we were meeting with alums and donors and parents was JMU's commitment to teaching and the faculty-student relationship. You can passionately hear our faculty talk about why that matters to them, and that's why they came to JMU is because of that focus. And then to be in an event in Richmond or New York City or wherever and hear an alum say, I had a relationship with Professor so-and-so, and that made all the difference. That's what's special about JMU. And I think that it's important and impressive that we can offer so many different opportunities of a size university that we have, but still personalize it in that way.
You know, as the guy tasked with minding the university's brand, one of the leading indicators I'm always really interested to pay attention to is how the hiring process is going across campus. And in the last 2 or 3 years, every time I'm in the presence of somebody who's on a hiring committee, especially hiring faculty, I ask them, how's your pool? And the response is, over the last couple of years, like, it's unbelievable. We're getting people who not only have ambitious research agendas, but want to teach students. We're beginning to occupy a unique niche. Wouldn't you say, Bethany?
Definitely. I think that there aren't a lot of national research universities that offer the type of faculty engagement that is really central to the JMU experience. And I think, as Sheila said, that came through loud and clear in the listening sessions. And faculty take very seriously their roles as teachers and scholars. And so I think that piece of our identity should be a part of wherever we're going next.
Most definitely. Well, now, so the listening part of the process basically wrapped up toward the end of the fall semester. Chris, how was all of those data, gathered, processed, and honored, and how is it informing the next step in the process?
Yeah, we gathered a lot of information through a variety of ways. So there was online feedback, there was written feedback at the idea forums, notes that were taken during the events, and members of my team worked really hard. Anything that was written was transcribed and stored, and I think we tried to leverage technology, and so we both looked at kind of our own experiences in terms of what did we hear, what were the common themes that emerged from those events. But then we also looked at, how can we help, so we used our AI, we used some Copilot to look for some major themes, but we also wanted to make sure that those themes aligned with what we were hearing, that they allowed for us to think critically about, do these jive with what we also see. We took that as a starting point. So we looked for common themes that emerged from those information. And then we really worked on refining, and we worked a lot with the division heads to refine, to say, is this align with what we think the future direction of JMU should be? And that's really the starting point for those pillars that we've seen emerge.
And what Chris is describing is there's 4 major pillars in the plan that kind of came together as part of this process.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a main kind of starting point. It's meant to be kind of the overarching umbrella to the vision moving forward. It's also important to note that it's not just that information that was used. There was a lot of other information that was collected as President Jim went on his listening tour, but also had a lot of conversations with different members, different donors, different alumni, legislators, other places where that information might not have been captured, but that helped form his understanding of where JMU needs to be, what's important to JMU. And so it also incorporated information from various senior leadership, other vice presidents, through their own experiences as well, and where do they see the future direction of JMU. And so the listening tour was or I should say the listening phase of the process so far really, I think, involved, we looked at the information from multiple angles to try to help come up with a starting point, a broad basis of what are the really key elements that help make JMU distinctive and also will help push us forward. And that's where the pillars emerged.
And so the listening phase wrapped up toward the end of last semester, and there was a kickoff event in December with the vision teams. And Sheila, tell us, what does the Envision phase look like and how's it proceeding?
Sure. So vision teams were formed based on a call for volunteers. So 7 different teams were formed with 7 subcommittees in support of the 4 pillars that Chris mentioned. And they got to work, some of them as early as December, really diving into what are responding to some preliminary draft strategies that were developed, but also thinking beyond that into what other strategies could be, as well as in some cases thinking through implementation and what that would look like. So their work is underway. Their reports are due March 13th, I think, is right?
I happen to be on one of the vision teams, and we've been meeting weekly, and there's a lot of excitement in a strategic planning process, and in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect. A lot of enthusiasm for the future, and what's been very interesting to me as a participant is that we've heard a lot of broad hopes and expressed values in the listening phase, and now seeing how that's turning into clear strategic direction during the vision phase. Everybody's really kind of excited about that. Bethany, have you been hearing about this?
I have. It's been nice to hear or to broaden the circle of people who are engaging with the pillars and the potential strategies that have emerged in the process so far. So sort of broadening the circle, bringing more people in, having different people with different experiences and perspectives say, hey, what does it look like if we do this? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And in my experience, chatting with folks on the vision teams has been similar to yours, is that people are like, this is fun. This is exciting to imagine what's possible.
I mean, it's in addition to our regular duties, but it's almost kind of a refreshing addition to it. One of the things I think as this process is moving forward, there's lots of people involved. Not everybody's keeping up with it. Not everybody is engaged with what's happening. Chris, let me ask you this question first. If somebody walked up to you on campus and asked, what should I know about the strategic planning process right now? What would be your answer?
Well, I think what I would say is right now that some initial ideas have emerged, and we're really interested in people's reactions to those ideas. The plan is not fully baked. The plan is not. There's a document that exists that shares what it says plan on there, but it also says way more often, I think, draft. Right? I think that's an important consideration right now, is we're really looking for that feedback to help us understand where's the enthusiasm, where are the concerns, so that senior leadership and others can use the input from the vision teams and then the input that we're hearing to really make a plan that the entire campus can get behind.
And Andy, you've been talking about your weekly meetings with the vision teams, but I would want anyone on campus to know that participating in this process doesn't need to be a heavy lift for you. So take a look at the draft plan, fill out the survey once it's live, let us know what is exciting, let us know what's not exciting to you, so those perspectives can inform decisions about what makes its way into the final plan.
It based on my direct experience on the vision team and the fact that I've been a member of this community for quite a long time, it feels like it's distinctly kind of JMU. There's an intense social connection to what's happening. There's excitement. There's people wanting to become part of it. Sheila, how do you think this whole process sort of is distinctly JMU and how it's playing out?
Well, we do like to gather. So I think there's been a lot of different opportunities for people to gather, to share their input, to share their ideas. And I think there's also been a strong commitment to honor our culture and who we are as an institution. Yes, we want to do bigger, bolder things, and we want to stay true to who we are as an institution. And I feel that kind of across the board. And I think that's important.
Me too. And one of the other things that we're known for as a campus is, because of Madison's legacy is been pronounced for so many years, and the values that he projected on civic dialogue are really important. And I've been seeing that in these interactions. Bethany, how does Madison's legacy sort of play into how this is playing out?
Sure. Among my favorite things about James Madison's legacy is the creation of institutions to promote deliberation. And I think this has been a deliberative process, and we want it to continue to be a deliberative process. And it is really wonderful to see people from across campus get together to talk about what we ought to prioritize and how we ought to do it. So if we say we want to expand access to undergraduate research, that's wonderful. And it is really important and helpful to have people who occupy different positions on campus come together to share what success could look like for them, and also what they might perceive as different obstacles given those different experiences. And that is sort of the hallmark of sort of the best outcomes of deliberative processes are kind of stronger outcomes that are more likely to lead to success, where more people feel like they were able to shape those decisions and can therefore get behind them.
You sound like a political scientist.
I do love some institutions.
Sheila, you mentioned when the next report is due, and then what's going to happen after that in the formal process. I know the board meets, and they're ultimately going to vote on the plan in later April.
Correct.
So roll out for us what's next.
So after the reports are submitted by the vision teams, there'll be a lot of work done by Chris and all of us to review their reports and make some recommendations on how we should continue to edit the draft strategic plan. That'll be done in conjunction with the president and vice presidents, division heads, as well as the Board of Visitors. So they have a retreat in March, as well as that April board meeting, as you mentioned, where they'll be voting on what should be at that point the final plan. So a lot of revision and tweaking and evolving of that current draft document.
Yeah, and I just want to note too that as part of our the timeline that's been developed, in addition to everything that Sheila's said, is that there's still going to be another opportunity that we've tried to identify where once a kind of a final draft of the plan is produced, we want to put it out there for public comment. We want it'll be based on the timeline. It's not going to be a 60-day comment like you sometimes see, but it will be enough time for folks who wish to read the plan and provide their input in terms of ways to tweak or again more reaction, but as well as some solid feedback. That if we hear that enough, right, we'll continue to refine the plan further before it gets submitted to the Board of Visitors for their final review and approval. So there's still, once the vision teams are done with their work, once another draft is out, we still want the public to be able to look at that plan, to react to it, to know what is being presented to the board. And have their say to help make that a truly JMU plan.
I've heard the adage that culture eats strategy for lunch, and it's really important that people remember that strategic plans don't create change; people do. And so, from my perspective, this process and its inclusivity really does sort of draw that power in to make it go. Just as a parting thought, Chris, as the leader of planning at the university, how do you see people being important to this process in a way that is ongoing?
Well, I think people are the ones who are going to put the plan into action. The plan is just it's a document. It's got ideas, and it'll have ways to implement these ideas, but it's the people, it's all of us who are going to be the ones doing the work and making it happen. And so if we're not excited about it, or if we don't see the value in it, it's going to be much harder for us to reach for success and reach the goals and the targets that are being identified as part of the plan. And so, I think that's why we want we want folks to engage in this process however they see fit and provide their input. And, when we see enough folks and enough people saying the same things, that helps drive decision-making, that helps drive refinement, and ultimately that ends up with a better plan. And so throughout this process, we want folks to engage as best as they see fit.
And Sheila, could you list for our listeners some of the ways that folks can get engaged? I mean, all of this is laid out on the website. There's lots of different ways to jump in.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely visit the website for details and links and sign up registration links. Talking to anyone that's on a vision team or the strategic planning team. I think we've all gone out and done several different presentations to departments and groups just to give them updates, and we're happy to continue to do that.
And President Jim's all over the place.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And I mean that he's everywhere, not all over the place in terms of scattered.
Right, I got it.
Right.
Okay,
I was tracking you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I think it's just taking a moment to find out where things are at and not hesitating to ask questions if you have them. So I think as we've spelled out, there's a lot of different inflection points and opportunities for involvement.
Well, and in particular, there was an event on the 10th of February that was designed to draw in a lot of people. Bethany?
Yeah, so lots of people have been asking, what are these vision teams up to? And this event was designed to create space for people to get answers to that. And so we had each vision team hosting a table where people could come and go, chat with the leaders of those teams, ask questions, and of course, so the teams could get some feedback from campus community members.
Cool. Well, listen, this has been very informative, and I hope our listeners find it to be so as well. Bethany, Chris, and Sheila, thanks for being on again. We really appreciate it, and we'll likely have you back, if you will.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, remember, listeners, if you've got an idea for future episodes or just want to be in touch, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, go Dukes.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at the Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team, who then produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all the popular platforms where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.